one of the questions I had asked him, because as a foreigner, I don't know in-depth things about Taiwan agriculture, but what I have heard was that the betel nut industry is partly to blame for a lot of the erosion we see, because Taiwan, of course, has typhoons and big thunderstorms, and mountainsides get washed away. And I said, are you aware that this happens, right? In your industry, that betel nut farmers are getting blamed for a lot of the stuff that is happening in the environment, right?
Yeah. I mean, we asked him about, about this soil water conservation, and then betel nut trees, they're hurting the environment, So what does he say about that?
And he's like, yeah, you're right.
It's a fact. Yeah, I agree. And then he said, well, but is betel nut tree the only agricultural crop or plant hurting the environment? That I'm not so sure.
Yeah.
And then, I think he's trying to say is that if you want betel nut tree to take in all the blame for all the mountain slide, mudslide happen during the typhoon season, he said, well, that's a little bit too much, because it's not like betel nut tree is the only reason causing that.
Yeah, which brought me to my next question to him, was like, well, is the government doing anything, right? Does the government come in and say, hey, betel nut farmers, you need to think about how you're planting, you got to come off the mountain because you are harming the environment? And he said, well, they know it exists, but the government doesn't really do anything about it.
Yeah.
Right?
He said, like you said, he doesn't know too much about the government regulation. Probably there isn't much to know about, but it's not like I question his statement, but I did double check online, and then there isn't much. And then, but the government does try to, come up with consulting plan for the betel nut farmers to encourage them that, okay, why don't you quit betel nut tree and then you grow something else? Okay, so why don't you grow tea trees? Okay, why don't you grow something else? Okay, because betel nut trees are hurting the environment. But Mr. Chen said that, well, a lot of the betel nut farmers, they are old. They are in their 60s.
Yeah.
And what do you expect from them? This is something easy for them. I mean, they know this whole their life, and then all of a sudden you want them to grow tea tree, you want them to grow coffee. But I mean, betel nut tree, we mentioned that it's almost like a year round. But for tea tree, I read this online. For tea tree, you have to wait 3 years or 5 years to harvest the first time, and then in terms of, it's not that economical for the farmers.
Yeah, and I think one of the points that I found very interesting, that what he said was like, he goes, yeah, look, the government sort of winks and goes, yeah, we're going to help the environment, but we're not going to shut things down.
Yeah.
Right. And so the next question I had for him was like, what is the big threat to your business? And he goes, well, it's also kind of the government. The government on one hand is looking the other way, letting us, if we're harming the environment, okay. But they're also out there promoting that, look, betel nut's going to cause oral cancer. And they're kind of playing both sides here.
Yeah.
Right? He was not too happy about that.
Not at all. And then, like you said, the role of the government is very, well, to them, I would say it's confusing. But what do you think? Like, is betel nut evil? Is the betel nut the big bad wolf you want to get rid of? But on the other hand, betel nut is a huge industry. I look it up online. Betel nut is an 11.4 billion industry. We have 500,000 of people in this industry. So you just want to get rid of all that, and then you want them to all grow coffee tree, tea trees. So, but on the other hand, this is it's not something you can change overnight. So government is taking stances. So you mentioned that the government is associated betel nut with oral cancer, and that's the biggest threat Mr. Chen is facing. He said a lot of people,
it's just negative publicity.
Exactly.
Right. So the government is kind of spearheading the negative publicity,
right,
which is hurting him. But on the other hand, they're not really looking at the environmental side, So they're playing both sides, right? This is going to be a big shock to you, but money can sway things, right?
Money can sway things, and also politics can sway things.
Yeah. I don't think a politician is going to risk an election by coming out and say, okay, my platform is down with betel nut. Suicide, right? Political suicide. You can't do that.
He's gonna lose 500,000 votes right away, or even more, a million votes right away.
Yeah.
As long as you're taking a strong stance. So I mean, biggest threat, negative publicity. But Mr. Chen did mention that. Well, he said, betel nuts and oral cancer. Yes, there's a positive correlation in there, but
it's not the only cause.
Not the only, exactly.
Right. And he was quick to say, hey, we're adults. There are other choices out there that we make as adults that might not be the best for our health. Smoking, drinking, overeating. It was those kinds of things that also can contribute to cancer stuff. It's not just betel nut, but it's very easy. I don't know if you've noticed when I go to a hospital, you'll see the posters with really ugly posters of people's mouths from
scary.
This is caused by betel nut, right?
Scary, yeah.
So
I mean,
he acknowledged it.
He acknowledges it, and then he couldn't stop talking about the negative impression. I mean, he said, betel nut is not the only reason causing the oral cancer. I mean, those people also smoke, and I mean, those people also drink. But the government is not there to say that betel nut is the sole reason, the only reason that causes
and you can't.
cancer.
The government is never going to come out and say we're going to ban betel nut, because the betel nut guys are okay. Ban smoking, ban drinking. Right. There's too much money involved. It's not going to happen.
And the funny thing is, I looked it up online. Is like right now the government is labeled betel nut as a, how do you call that? Cancer causing food. But the funny thing is, sausages also is in the same category. Sausages is also a cancer causing food. So I mean, if you can have that much tolerance to sausage, okay, but how come for betel nuts we have such a different view on this thing?